Yeah, it's New Year's Eve, so we're going to go a little bit off-piste with the GMBN Tech show this time and have a look at some trends coming for 2020.
Yeah, we're going to look into our crystal ball and see what trends we might start to see really gaining some traction in the new year.
Okay, so something we've definitely been seeing at the end of 2019 is more trail-friendly coil shocks. Now, this is super exciting. I know you're a coil shock lover. I am, but I'm not there yet. But this could be the change, I think.
Yeah, we've seen not only more variety in the progressive rate coils, etc., more options in that regard, but also that adjustable system from Sprindex.
Yeah.
Which looks really, really cool.
Which actually, I'd kind of forgotten about the Sprindex system, even though that was only a couple of weeks back. That's actually bonkers technology, but to change the spring rate on a coil spring, and it's so simple.
Yeah.
Like, so simple. Why has no one done that before?
Yeah, for me, I really make my peace very quickly with if a bike perhaps doesn't have the pedaling characteristics that I want, as long as it has a lockout.
Yeah, you can deal with it.
I can deal with it. Like, if I'm out the saddle smashing pedals halfway down a descent, I would never blame the bike and be like, oh, there's not enough support. I don't care. Like, I just want to get on with riding.
Just deal with it, yeah.
And I just love, I had that coil on the Strive.
Yeah.
And I really just, I mean, it was great anyway, don't get me wrong. It wasn't anything to do with the bike, it was just the air setup. I felt I got the setup so good with the coil.
Yeah.
The suppleness in the mid-stroke was just
there's also such a different feel you can get with coils as well. You know, that initial breakaway, however good air is, coil still feels very different. And I think a lot of people that ride Coil Springs are massive advocates for it, and they'll try and convince you to ride coil. Basically, like Finn over at Full Factory Suspension, he's constantly badgering me to get on a coil. And actually, until that Sprindex unit you were talking about came out, I've not paid that much attention because I'm constantly changing my ride weight with bags and stuff. That actually could be an interest, I think.
Yeah, I will have a bit of place where I put coil on all my bikes, or coil and forks. No, because air definitely has its place. I mean, who could deny that? I
love air shocks and air forks. I think they're fantastic.
But what was super cool about having the coil on the Strive is because you have that geometry switch anyway on the lever, it firms up the suspension feeling and reduces the travel.
Get the best of both worlds, really.
It did feel something like that, yeah.
But I remember seeing some MRP brought out the progressive Coil Springs. I saw those at Sea Otter, saw them at Eurobike. I thought that was a really cool idea, and really cool to actually see Cane Creek sort of further validating it, I guess, by bringing them out as well. And they're ones, I've got to say, sorry MRP, I really like the white Coil Springs from Cane Creek on a perfectly shallow basis. They actually look really cool. Yeah, I'm shallow, I've said it, who cares? Like, what would you have? Would you have a red Coil Spring, an orange one, a black one, or a white one?
I think
how would you dress?
A white Coil Spring would match those leather boots you often wear on your Taboel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that'd be very cool.
The white clean ones?
Yeah.
I love my white clean leather boots.
So Coil Springs, obviously, big discussion point about how to make your suspension platform feel better.
Yeah.
But what if you want to keep that maybe slightly lighter setup, maybe even less travel, but with more refined or more progressive angles? Well, this has been the year for you this last year. And I think long may it continue. I can see other brands coming out with it. We've got that Mondraker F Podium, the Trek Top Fuel, the Pivot Mac 4, which were all, you know, cross-country World Cup race bikes that are now absolutely banging geometry.
So this is the down country buzzword.
Down country.
We're going there, or triple XC.
Triple XC.
Somewhere else. I've got to say triple XC, it sounds better than down country.
It does, yeah.
But I've been saying for a long time that people in general probably run too much suspension travel. I'm not going to tell people they're buying the wrong thing. You buy what you want, that's great. But short travel bikes ride so much better than many people realise, and I think now you're going to start seeing this being really unlocked. 124, kind of 100 back end. If the bike's stiff and taut enough and you've got the right stuff on it, those things will fly, absolutely fly.
Yeah. I just think it's amazing seeing bikes, you know, similar to, and I think Scott may be slightly ahead of the curve on this one with that Spark, but a World Cup cross-country race bike that is also an absolute ripper. A couple of years ago, you'd been hard to find a bike that you could say that about. And I probably am guilty to that group that you mentioned. I hopped on my Reactor and it was the first bike I've owned in many a year. There's been less than maybe 150 mil. I mean, I love big bikes, but the Reactor, it does feel a bit like, you know, the handbrake's off. You know, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just going so much faster everywhere.
Wants to go, a bit more playful.
Really, really.
At the same time, I think, some people might struggle with the fact that most trail bikes and enduro bikes these days, they're so capable that you suddenly ride stuff way over your head in a good way. You get a bit of a shock if you go back the other way onto a down country bike, or even as far as a 130 bike. If you're not ready for it, hit some choppy terrain and you'll know about it.
Yeah.
I kind of like that about them.
I think that's why I probably gravitated towards bikes that were longer travel than I actually needed. And it's because I was riding with people that were just, like in Queenstown, that the riding standard is so high and the trails are so gnarly. It was just like as a way to kind of tip the balance in my favour.
I get it, yeah. So you needed a bike that could cash those checks for you.
Yeah, and because I do a lot of pedalling, it was never a case of getting dropped on the climbs.
Yeah.
So it was quite a good mix.
Yeah. What would you guys be interested in as your next bike? Would you be interested in a short travel bike like that, or do you think it's nonsense? You'd rather just stick to a big old bully boy of a 160 or a 180mm travel thing? They're getting bigger as well. Don't forget, you're getting the 29ers with 180mm travel out there. The complete opposite end of the spectrum. But let us know in those comments. So a couple of years back, we saw everyone go one by. I think it's fair to say largely thanks to SRAM pioneering that X-Sync chainring system. But now we're up to 12 speed on the rear. SRAM obviously got the GX system and the NX system out there, but Shimano have returned with the XT and more importantly the SLX. That means the SLX is going to be everywhere out there, and I think it's amazing that you can have a simple one-by system up front with a dependable chainring, and you've got that nice dependable Shimano shifting. Of course at OEM you're going to get it everywhere.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool, and I think actually there's never been so much excitement with transmissions on bike and so many people actually popping out of the woodwork developing stuff.
A lot of players.
It's not happened before.
So you've got Microshift, TRP, Box, Ceramic Speed seem to be a bit of a hub of excitement.
They are, but they're super big, the wheels.
Yeah.
With like almost no friction, it just spin around.
And they've also got that system where, without a derailleur system, where it goes along the stay, which I think could be really cool. I'm really interested with that Ceramic Speed system to find out how it is affected or what the anti-squat figures are on it. Because I wonder if it could give you really consistent amounts of anti-squat, which could then potentially lead up a bit of suspension design. But same with the gearbox.
That's a really interesting way of thinking.
Interesting things happening with gears. And who would have thought a couple of years ago, people would, say you could take my front derailleur out of my cold, dead hands.
Yeah.
Now we're like, we don't even want the rear mech.
Yeah. Oh man, 100%. Let's not forget that we read up that feature that the Bike Radar guys did on that new Shimano patent, which looks like it's a gearbox and possibly e-motor and all sorts of stuff as a hub on the bike, all in one. I think we're going to start seeing this stuff really seriously coming on in the next year or so. So this has got to be up there with trends. Although, just one little thing, you mentioned TRP. I'd totally forgotten that the transmission they made with Aaron Gwynn has got that lock-off rear derailleur.
Yep.
That feature, I was like, oh my God, that's actually amazing. Completely silent in use. Effectively, what the B-screw does and the derailleur can pivot around. Once you've adjusted the derailleur to work and be indexed correctly, you literally lock it. Yep. And it basically doesn't move except for that jockey cage, so you ain't dropping that chain.
You can do it with other methods. With Mr. Dremel, he comes out for a bit of a party.
No doubt. Yeah.
But it's nice to have the not butcher.
Isn't Mr. Dremel a great friend?
He is a very good friend. Live 2 doors down.
He's quite naughty though. He does invalidate people's warranties.
Yes.
More tyres coming out. More tyre brands, more tyre tech. I think on our Christmas show we referred to the Vittoria stuff with the 4 compounds, but actually there's a lot of motorsport companies coming in. So we've been running Continental tyres for the last few years here at GMBN, but let's not forget that Goodyear came in, and Goodyear of course been massive on the motor racing scene for a long time.
And don't forget Pirelli as well.
Yeah, again, firing in the money. I think they were making, there's like 4 tyres, but they're based around condition specific rather than tread specific.
I saw this.
Really interesting concept.
And it just had the one, I think it's just called the Scorpion.
That's correct, yeah.
And then you'd basically choose your width or something dependent on
I think there's 27.5, 29, 2.4 and 2.6, and then there's the different casings.
Yeah, that's it.
And then you pick the condition specific version of the tread.
And I think it's great to see a company as big as Pirelli also coming in and saying, maybe we're going to do things slightly differently.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes that's what it needs. And,
Absolutely.
it's only going to give us more more resource of knowledge.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a whole lot of interesting stuff coming from some bigger brands out there, rather than the regular Maxxis and Schwalbe and the other tyres we've seen on the scene. It's got to be a good thing, having more choice as a consumer and bringing expertise in from other fields. I think that's really cool.
Now, we spoke earlier on about cross-country bikes finally getting bang up-to-date geometry.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But also, let's not forget their slightly bigger brothers, the trail bike.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, it felt like the trail bike had pretty much all of its lunch stolen, except for perhaps a few scraps, by the enduro bike becoming more pedalable.
Absolutely, it felt like it had lost identity, didn't it? You'd have XC or you'd have enduro. You're absolutely right, yeah.
But now the trail bike has kind of reinvented itself.
Yeah.
And it's just got that more kind of, I think the steep seat tube angle has kind of helped that a lot, because now it's a lot more pedalable.
Yeah.
But just some names of the bikes that come out in the last year. We've got the Optic, the Reactor, the Orbea Occam, the Hightower, the Fuel EX. All super progressive, super fun to ride trail bikes.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think they're bridging that gap between them and enduro bikes. And it's kind of forcing enduro bikes into a bit of a different realm.
Yeah.
You're starting to see enduro bikes really in the 160 to 180 mark, but very different bikes, often heavier than downhill bikes.
Yeah.
Insanely strong. I think there's a bit of a change of the guard, actually.
Well, I think one of the reasons that enduro captured people's imagination was, when road cyclists said, do you want to go for a ride? They all just went, yeah, all right. But when mountain bikers said, do you want to go for a ride? They'd say, actually, I ride dirt jumps, I ride cross country, I ride trail, I ride downhill.
Yeah.
And then everyone got enduro bikes and were like, oh, let's just ride together. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I think the enduro bikes themselves kind of lent towards that more downhilly focus as a way to ride everything. And similarly, the trail bikes we were riding, I don't think were quite aggressive enough to kind of keep up.
No, they were kind of just long travel XC bikes, really, for quite a long time. They're a bit vague.
Yeah, and I think it's good to see it done properly. And it just goes to show that good geometry, travel is obviously very important, but a good bike can cover any travel.
Yeah, geometry is absolutely key. Don't be persuaded into a bike sale just by the amount of travel it's got, or if it's got an XTR mech hanging off it. As Henry says, geometry is everything. But let's not forget, at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, for all of you viewers out there and newer riders coming into the sport, you've got to start somewhere, and budget bikes have never been so good.
They have never been so good. And I think if we could give, a token of our appreciation to caliber bikes.
Oh my God, yeah.
They've been a driving force behind this movement.
And really thinking quite differently to how most brands approach budget bikes. And it tends to be, there'll be a bike designer, there'll be a product manager, and they will look at what they can get the bike out the door for. They'll obviously try and give you a good bike for the money, but also try and maximise on what they take from it. Whereas Caliber bikes took a bit of a different approach. They weren't doing OEM spec by just buying an entire group set, for example, that's pre-packaged at a price, putting it on a bike and getting it out there. They're hand-picking each component that goes on a bike to give you the absolute best possible thing you can get for the money. Yeah. And then, of course, the great geometry on the bikes.
Great geometry.
Quite ridiculous prices, to be fair. I think really, really good value. It's a UK-based brand. You can get them overseas, mail order, online. But there's also others out there. I think you mentioned, was it that comes through Halfords?
Voodoo?
Voodoo bikes, yeah.
Super.
So they've been a US brand in the past. You can get them in Europe under the name Voodoo. Again, the same thing, really well considered geometry.
Yeah, and I think, with something like the Caliber bike, I can't remember the pricing, but they do one that comes in at bang on £1,000, which for the UK riders cycle to work scheme is covers very nicely. But you're getting bikes that have, one by drivetrain, suspension front and back, like a properly, wide rims, all that sort of stuff.
Pretty good suspension as well.
Pretty good bike all round. Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, and that's where it should be, actually, because people coming into sport need to get the best feeling. Otherwise, it could turn you off it. So,
yeah, totally.
Buying, in fact, there's a video for us to make on buying a budget bike, because it's really important what you need to know, what you need to look for, because, as you say, you could buy the wrong one.
But isn't it weird that, like with skiing, you give beginners nice, easy to manoeuvre, soft, easy skis.
Yeah.
But with our entry-level bikes in the past, they've shared a lot of traits with bikes you might consider to be quite hard to achieve stability on, like your cross-country race bikes.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's kind of just seems absolutely backwards. So it's great that, you've got good entry-level bikes that people can learn how much fun mountain biking is.
They're the most important bikes out there. Yes, we'll do something cool on budget bikes soon.
Now, I've got a special corner of my heart set aside for my love of downhill bikes.
Well, you're going to have to convince me hard here.
Now, I know that we don't have the terrain for them around here. I know that they are kind of a one-trick pony, but I couldn't help but be absolutely overjoyed when Specialized, Scott, big brands, bringing out not just facelift bikes, but page one.
As in, like, so redeveloping their own bikes.
The new Gambler, the new Demo.
Yeah.
Completely different from their previous version. Both already proving their World Cup winning capabilities.
Yeah.
And I just thought, there's something about a downhill bike that captures my imagination. And I love riding downhill bikes. I love riding the short travel bikes. But
I'm not sure I'm ever going to feel the need to ride a downhill bike again, but I 100% get it. Like, there's, I love the correct tool for the job, and that is the correct tool for that job. I'm with you all the way. I just feel like I guess the enduro bike is almost serving so much of that crowd now.
But I think the enduro bikes, you know, are super capable. But people often say, and you do hear it, oh, feels just like a downhill bike. Oh, I get to the top, but it's basically a downhill bike. And then you go, right.
They don't.
And you go to a proper bike park, you know, and I was lucky enough to have Queenstown bike park on my doorstep. Had a downhill bike.
Very average.
Oh my God, it's just amazing. It's just the sensation is just, and I just think it's great. I hope more brands continue to go through their downhill bikes. Hopefully the new 29er Glory will be released quite soon.
And if it is, it'll be an amazing bike, because Giant, the Glory in the past, probably one of the most successful mass market downhill bikes, to be fair. The
Summon will be coming out in various guises of prototyping with the mullet setup.
Insane race bike, yeah.
Yeah, and I would guess with that, you know, it doesn't have the same mass market appeal for big brands now. I guess I was kind of a bit worried that maybe they'd kind of turn off and not be so interested, because they're there to make money at the end of the day.
Of course they are, but then it's, you know, it's a great platform for marketing, and let's not forget that the whole downhill side of the sport is arguably the most exciting to visually watch. Might not be the best to compete in and do. There's other things that doing enduro, your mates, is going to be a lot more fun for sure. But watching downhill racing is still so exciting, isn't it?
And I just want to ask our viewers a question.
Yeah.
Do you guys watch downhill? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, they love mountain biking, they love all the tech, they love reading the latest and greatest parts. But I wonder how many people really, your average mountain bikers are super in tune with the downhill racing.
Okay, well, let's have a little poll. What is your favourite type of mountain biking? Let's try and get this in the comments underneath. If you could all click on this, it would be really cool, just so we get a little understanding of who you are and what you love. Okay, last up, I think, is obscure bikes. Now, they're always kind of a little bit of a trend, but we've definitely seen some really interesting ones, I would say. Now, at the beginning of the year, when you first started, we went over to a small bike show called Bespoke, actually, in Bristol, and I know that you took a bit of a liking to the Arbor.
Love at first sight.
Yeah. Pretty special bike. This is some shots of it on screen now.
Yeah.
Let rip on this bad boy.
Mate, it can make 1,000 thighs go clammy. Absolutely beautiful. And it's not the only one. There are some beautiful bikes coming out. I mean, we always talk about Pole, but they're a great example.
Yeah.
Somebody that's doing stuff slightly differently would be Starling Cycles, based out of Bristol, actually.
Yeah,
Murmur just looks so good. And what I love about these bike brands is, I don't know if it's because they're maybe just smaller setups, but they just seem to have no mold. We talk about 3 bikes there, all different materials, you know, all different approaches.
Absolutely,
but the end result is just a bike that you just desperately want.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
I'll tell you what, talking of bikes I want that are obscure, I've referenced them so many times. Uno.
Yes.
I mean, these are like hyperbike territory.
Hyperbike.
But I love the whole fact that the whole design ethos behind them was don't really want to travel all the time to design bikes in the Far East, so they basically learned how to do this themselves in Barcelona. They do all the carbon manufacturing down there. At some point, I would love to come down and see you guys, but love what you do. It's awesome.
Yeah. They just, I think also with Uno, is Cesar Rojo seems to be, well, he basically, for those that don't know, Cesar Rojo has had a hand in so many downhill bikes.
Coming from his World Cup downhill racing days as well. Yeah.
I mean, things like the Polygon, DH9, I believe he had a hand in, the Mondrakers, and you know, do similar to Dave Weagle. You know, flies quite under the radar, but
he's done it.
Influential man.
Yeah, and awesome looking bikes. Well, we started the show saying it's New Year's Eve, and now it's almost time to party. So I guess from Henry and myself and Dan the cameraman, it's Happy New Year to all you awesome GMBN Tech viewers.
Happy New Year!
And here's some bloopers for you.
So, oh my God, you piece of shit.
I was going for the top again, wasn't I? So,
Yeah.
Again, yeah, I thought so. Just checking.
In my mouth. Ugh. In my experience, I'm going to go from the top, Simon. Some screws.
Oh, I don't like lycra either, it's okay.
Let's measure. Let's go measure some jumps. I turned into Sean Connery. Right, back at it again. Gonna go back because actually I had to make sense there. Oh my God. Get a video of this because it could go hilariously while you are. Not stopping! Landed on a stump.
Hook us up. Hook us up? What does that mean? Creaking. And click down here.
Bloody hell's teeth. Bloody hell! Try to wing it.
Quite rightly so, actually. I don't believe it's bollocks. So.
This work is great. Yeah, mate. Wasting time with anything else.